Hey everyone, how are you doing today? I just wanted to give my thoughts on the Super Mario movie trailer that just was brought out just a few days ago. Reason why this is my thoughts and not a reaction is because I actually did see the trailer already about an hour after it came out. And I was just like, oh, cool, this is exciting. It didn't even enter my mind to do a reaction to it until the very next day. And then I didn't have the time to do a video then, so I'm doing it now before it gets that much later and people don't care about it anymore. Not really. The internet is very much a buzz, especially about a particular issue. I'm just going to play the trailer right now so you kind of have something a little more to look at than just my face. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of give my thoughts on it because I'm actually pretty excited for this project. I do have some thoughts about some things which we'll get into, but I just kind of want to get into the. Sorry, I'm adjusting the volume because we probably are going to do the sound, but I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on everything that I saw in the trailer because I'm pretty excited how I kind of feel about it right now. I know I might be kind of jumping the gun. How I kind of feel about it right now is I'm interested to see it. So I really want to check it out, and I guess we can kind of go scene by scene and just kind of give thoughts. Oh yeah, I have subtitles on. I guess I can take those off. But let's see here. One thing that I'm gonna go ahead. Well, I'll probably fiddle with the sound there. I think that the artistic style that they're going for works very well. Um, I don't have any problems with it or any issues with it. Um, Sorry, my phone. Don't have any problems or issues with it. Oh, here we go. Because I am going to talk about the voice acting, which is, kind of the elephant in the room, one specific instance. But this, Kamek, that's what this character is known as. And just kind of for reference, well, I do like video games, and I'm pretty into video games, and I have played Mario games. In fact, one of the, I'm pretty sure it wasn't my first video game, but one of the earliest games I played was Super Mario Land on the original Game Boy. So I am quite familiar with Mario, but I'm not like some super, you know, I haven't played all the games. I haven't, there's a lot of things about certain characters and lore within the Mario series that I don't know. So I'm not coming at it as like someone who's like super deeply invested in the franchise. Of course, kind of something with the Mario franchise is you don't really have to be, because just by the very nature of it, of the games, they're platformers. They're meant to just kind of be fun, and the story is really there just more for a setting for game mechanics rather than anything else. But we got Kamek here, who is played by Keith Michael Richardson. So glad to see that he was in this movie. He's one of my favorite voice actors, which I am going to touch upon. And my hope is that we do get to see many other voice actors within the smaller roles of the film. But really great to see him. I think I don't know what his voice
Behold, the king of the Koopas!
I don't know if Kamek really has a voice in kind of Super Mario lore, so I don't really have anything to compare it to. And even still with even the more major characters such as Bowser, such as Mario, such as Luigi, although we don't really hear Luigi talk at all. Really, only the four main ones out of the main cast are Kamek, are Bowser, are Mario, and Toad. And sorry, there's a bird cawing. I very much have enjoyed the performances of virtually all of the actors. Obviously, there's been a little bit of controversy, which we'll get to, and to kind of touch on that controversy. Part of it is also because people have been asking why were voice actors specifically cast for this, and it is something to kind of get into, as opposed to just regular actors who are lending their voice. But one thing that I think should be taken when we're approaching these characters is it's not like there's this great volume of audio history for these characters, for Bowser, for Mario, for Luigi, any of the characters. Within the games, their vocabulary is generally limited to just a few words, probably not even 10 in most instances. And even then, even if it exceeds it, it's probably not more than, like 20 or 30. I don't think, even with the RPG spin-offs for Mario, there has ever been like voice acting for Mario. So it's just been a very few words. So there is a lot of leeway, in my opinion. There's a lot of leeway within those characters. However, there is there's still precedence. Even though it's small, even though it's limited, there's still an understanding of what a character sounds like. There's a reason why, when the announcement for this movie came up, people just lost their minds in a good way. I think, well, probably some people lost their minds in a bad way, but most of what I saw is people were like, this is bonkers, when they saw the announcements of who was being cast as who. Like, Jack Black as Bowser, like, never would have computed. I know, Bowser's this reptilian, I'm Bowser, kind of thing. It's like, I don't equate that with Jack Black. Obviously Chris Pratt as Mario didn't equate that, but pretty much any of the characters, Michael Keegan, him as Toad, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, like, it was so absurd. And they did a really great job of promoting hype for the movie, which may be part of the casting decisions that they've made. But saying all that, with the choices that they've made as for acting, being voice actors for these roles, even though these roles are very limited in scope in the lore, I feel a little weird for using that term, but in the lore that it comes from, maybe I should say the intellectual property that it comes from, because this is an adaptation. It's an adaptation of a video game franchise. There is still some expectation, and so we're going to kind of get into that with I really like the design of Bowser in this movie.
Open the gates!
So, like that doesn't really sound like Bowser from the games. However, you can tell that Jack Black is trying to do his, I wouldn't even say impression, but he's trying to do his characterization of Bowser. And I actually think he does a pretty good job about it, and we'll get into that later. But we're gonna get to this great scene here. I also gotta say, I really love the music, like, with sounding how very serious this is. And I think that's very good in that the way that it's juxtaposed, as we're about to find out. And then obviously you see there's definitely a comedic tone to this movie, which I really appreciate. So it's going to be very interesting how they do that balance of kind of like seriousness with humor. How are they going to go for that?
That is but a taste of our fury. Do you yield?
And I don't know who voices the penguin, but such a great job. I love it. Love it so much.
I do not.
And again, in that particular line, you kind of hear a little bit of, oh yeah, okay, I hear a little bit of Jack Black, but obviously, he's doing his interpretation, And then this right here, honestly, this scene right here, and again, like I said, I haven't played all the games, and there is this thing in the games known as Giga Bowser, when he becomes kind of like, it's almost like Godzilla Bowser, and then there was that recent game where I don't know what form he's supposed to be, Bowser's Fury, where he's kind of giant and really monstrous looking. But with the potential exceptions of those two instances, I think this is the most intimidating Bowser has ever been portrayed. And when I saw this, my jaw kind of dropped a little bit. I'm like, whoa, they're really making Bowser a bad guy. Like he's powerful, you know, because sometimes you don't really get that in the game. Sometimes it's just more like, well, he's the bad guy that you have to beat, and you know, we set him up as this big bad, but he's not really a big bad. Honestly, as time has gone on, Bowser's really kind of more of an anti-hero-ish than like a true villain, which does make me interested to see, are they going to take that particular tack maybe at all, or is he just going to be playing the villain? If he's playing the villain, I think they're doing a great job of at least setting it up in this teaser trailer.
I finally found it. Now who's gonna stop me?
So, like in that instance, especially with the last few lines, you really kind of hear Jack Black's voice come through. And this is not me saying, oh, well, the actor's voice shouldn't come through. It's Jack Black. Obviously, it should sound like that person, but everything that he's doing is through the interpretation of that character, you know. And Jack Black, to his credit, you know, he is kind of a video game fan, so probably for him. And if you saw the video beforehand when they interviewed him and Chris Pratt, along with, I believe it was the director of the film, or either the head of Illumination Entertainment, who are the ones doing the design, and Shigeru Miyamoto, you can just tell he's super excited to do this role, and I think you hear that excitement come through in his performance, and also you know, I don't want to assume, but he's probably played Mario. And he probably has enjoyed it, and so he's probably super happy to get his chance to play one of the most iconic characters in video game history. Also, another thing too, Jack Black, as opposed to some of these other actors, you know, which were more typically known for their live action roles, Jack Black actually has done quite a bit of voice work in other video games, and he actually is a musician. He has released an album. So voice control, things of this nature, these are things that Jack Black's very well versed in. So I'm not at all surprised that, let me put it this way. I was surprised because in my brain, it's like, oh, Jack Black is Bowser. So it's like, oh, we're going to have School of Rock and Nacho Libre, you know, sort of a thing, being Bowser. Like, that's kind of in your head, but it's like, obviously it's not that going on. So in that sense, like, just kind of like, okay, well, how is, you know, with this thought of Jack Black voice, how is that going to be Bowser? It surprised me in that way, but that obviously is not a realistic expectation if you think about it. But I'm not at all surprised that he did such a good job with Bowser's voice, that he gave that feeling of Bowser without sounding like a verbatim copy of Bowser. He channeled he gave the right energy, you know, gave the right vibes. And then we are introduced to our hero. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, are we getting some Fix-It Felix Jr. vibes here from Wreck-It Ralph? Something about the face seems very similar to Fix-It Felix. I'm not saying that it was intentional or anything like that, but when I saw it the first time, I'm like, huh, he kind of looks like Fix-It Felix Jr.
What is this place?
All right, so this is going to be something that I'll kind of jump into later. Obviously, with Mario saying that, it makes it sound like he's never been to the Mushroom Kingdom before. So I actually have a theory about, like, why is that the case, especially in line of this next line that you get right here from another character.
Do not touch that mushroom, you'll die! Oh, I'm sorry. That one's perfectly fine. Come on,
Oh, I stopped at the wrong point.
Mario!
Oh.
Mushroom, you'll die! Oh, I'm sorry. That one's perfectly fine. Come on, Mario!
So, obviously, those are two different scenes, and that character that we just got introduced to was Toad, which I believe Michael Keegan plays. It could be, because when I first watched it, I thought, oh, well, he knows who Mario is. Mario doesn't know where on Earth he is, but Toad knows somehow. So that's interesting, but seeing this, it's like, okay, well, these are two different scenes, so Mario actually could have introduced himself by this point between the first and the second. So that kind of takes a little bit of wind out of my theory, but I'm still kind of wondering if that's the case, which may also help explain some of the voice acting stuff too. So to touch on Toad, and yes, there is a reason why I have not touched on Mario yet. To touch on Toad, again, Toad's vocal acting in the games is very limited. In fact, even more limited than Peach or Bowser or Mario. I mean, Toad is basically just like a I'm not even doing it right, but it's basically just a noise, or like a expression of noise, and that's basically it of Toad. I don't think there's ever been an instance of Toad actually speaking words, that we hear in audio form. So when you're talking about interpretation, that gets even harder. And like I said, I think there's leeway, but they're meant to be kind of like they're the citizens of the Mushroom Kingdom. Yeah, I mean, look at his outfit. He's meant to be kind of this cute little guy, and I think Keegan's performance, he grabs that.
I'm sorry, that one's perfectly fine. Come on!
So you could say, oh, well, he doesn't sound like Toad, but I mean, honestly, what does that even mean? Given with what audio examples that we have. But I think, again, like with Bowser, he's finding that interpretation. He's in that similar vein. He's in that similar feeling.
Mario!
Mushroom Kingdom, here we come!
So in that particular instance, you kind of hear a little more inflection in Chris Pratt's voice, as opposed to the first line of dialogue that we were given. Bragging on the movie, bragging on all the people in there. And that's all I put it on loop, so there's something you can watch other than just my face. And that's all we get from Luigi, so there's no basis on giving any sort of feedback on Luigi. So, the elephant in the room. If you've heard anything at all about the reaction to this trailer, is that a lot of people are not exactly thrilled with Chris Pratt's performance. A lot of people weren't exactly thrilled with his casting to begin with. Apparently there's also even a petition to remove Chris Pratt, which I think is ridiculous. But in regards to that controversy, I think this trailer does demonstrate why there is the controversy. And I'm not saying that Chris Pratt isn't trying. I'm not saying that at all. But as opposed to Bowser, as opposed to Toad, those are the two biggest examples. Because again, I don't really know Kamek. But, Kamek, he still kind of sounds like he's in, there's a voice going on. He sounds like a character. That's the point. Is that we have these characters, and Mario sounds like Chris Pratt. He doesn't sound like an interpretation of Mario. He sounds, I mean, I'm sure someone's already come up with this, but as I like to say, Chris Prattio. It just sounds like Chris Pratt, and he just happens to be Mario. Not so much an interpretation of Mario. I think there is some of that going on in that second line of dialogue, but it's certainly not the Mamma Mia Mario that we've gotten in the past in the games. So, on that note, kind of the question to address on why Chris Pratt was hired, we don't know why he was given Mario. Would not been the person I picked to be Mario. I would have picked the original voice actor, whose name I'm actually forgetting, so I'm going to go pause this because I pulled it up. Charles Martinet, or Martinet, I guess, depending on the pronunciation. He's done the voice of Mario in the video game series since 1992. He's essentially the voice of Mario. And apparently he is going to have some sort of role in the film. It's not being said, but it's not Mario. A lot of people are like, why wasn't he Mario? I do, not to kind of get sidetracked, but Tara Strong, who's another voice actor, kind of pointed this out about there's kind of hypocrisy in Hollywood with voice actors, and I think there is a case, even though they are using I'm gonna get his name wrong. Kevin Michael Richardson. Yes, Kevin Michael Richardson. I was getting Keegan's name wrong. It's Keegan Michael Key, not Michael Keegan. Anyways, hopefully you knew who I was talking about. But they're obviously using one of the greats of voice acting in Kevin Michael Richardson, but they won't use Charles Martinet. So there is, Tara Strong was kind of talking about you devote all this time to these characters. She's most well known for Harley Quinn, portraying her in animation and video games. They pour all this time and years of effort into this character, and yet you're never given your chance when it comes to movie time because you're a B-class actor. A voice actor isn't a real actor, which obviously anyone in the video game community and anyone in voice acting would vehemently disagree with that sentiment. But that seems to be kind of the feeling in voice acting. I mean, that's one question I've always had with a lot of these animated movies is why is it that so often it's a very famous actor who does voice acting when there's this plethora of extremely talented voice actors, but they're not cast in the movies, or if they are in movies, they're always in secondary roles. I mean, even with Kevin Michael Richardson, he's not one of the, 4 biggest characters. He's an important sidekick. So why is it that always happens? I do think that for whatever reason there's I say for whatever reason, I do believe that there is a reason. And I think that main reason is name recognition. They want, when they showed all those names, they want those names because certain people they're like, ooh, so-and-so's in this movie, I'll go watch it. Now, I think that's grown less and less over time, as some people have discussed. With the whole thing with Top Gun Maverick, people are talking about, oh, is Tom Cruise the last movie star? But the fact of the matter is, Chris Pratt is one of the most well-known actors in Hollywood right now. Chris Pratt headlining a movie gets people's attention. He's like, oh, I love that guy in Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm going to go watch that movie because he's Mario, even though I've never played any of the games. They're trying to draw that audience in. So I think that's a big reason, and that's not Chris Pratt's fault. I think that's a big reason why they hired him. But I think it is a shame that Charles Martinet kind of got the short stick when this, kind of would have been an opportunity of a lifetime for him. I think he deserved it, and I think that's a real big bummer that he doesn't get that shot. And especially when you hear the performance in this trailer, I'm just talking about in this trailer, it doesn't feel like Mario. It feels like Chris Pratt, which is disappointing. I don't think it's going to even if this turns out to be the kind of acting that we hear in the entire movie, I don't think it's going to ruin the movie because I think we have enough strong elements here. I love the visual style. I love how they present the characters. I think the other actors are bringing it with their voice acting. And again, I'm not saying Chris Pratt isn't trying. This could also fall on the head of the director. Maybe this is the performance that they want. Why? I don't know, but it could be what they want, and it's not fair to fault Chris Pratt for that. I'm still interested to see the movie. It's just going to be kind of disappointing if if the majority of opinion is, hey, this is a really great movie, but the character Mario's voice was kind of disappointing. So in the end, I think at worst it's just going to be a disappointment. It's not going to ruin the movie. I hope that isn't the case. I'm going to reserve my judgment for the movie. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. But as of right now, it's a bit like, yeah, this was kind of what I was feeling beforehand, and I'm still not so sure about it. You've sold me on everyone else, maybe. I'm not sold on Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. I don't know how they're going to pull that off. But you haven't sold me on the lead character, so that's kind of a bummer. But that's really all that it is. So nothing to get really worked up about, nothing to go sign a petition about, in my opinion. But if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I'm not going to say you can't feel that way. One thing that I feel that they could do that might save this is, and this was based on my whole thing of when I first saw it the first few times, where I thought, oh, Toad knows Mario, but Mario doesn't know where he is. Where now I'm not so sure that Toad doesn't know who does know who Mario is beforehand. But my original thought process was, oh, Mario's like, what is this place? And then you see Toad say, let's go, Mario. For whatever reason, it didn't register that that's two different scenes between him warning about the perfectly fine mushroom and saying, let's go, Mario, where they could have introduced themselves. My thought was, maybe this Mario that we see, this Chris Pratt Mario, I'm going to keep playing it again. This Chris Pratt Mario, maybe he's not the Mario. He's not the original Mario. He's not, the same Mario that we have seen in the video games and stuff like that. So maybe that explains why he doesn't sound like Mario. Now, the only problem with that thought is, why do the other characters sound like their characters? So, but there could be an in movie reason for that. That this is some other Mario, not the Mario. All the other characters are the characters. So I'm allowing that there might be that possibility. Now, it's equally possible that it just isn't, that this is the Mario. All the characters are as they were. But I just thought, hey, there's an interesting option that I think we should allow for the possibility for. And that might be a part of the reason why Mario sounds like Chris Pratt and not like Mario. So it was just something I was kind of thinking of, because I just found it to be a little bit baffling. Now, it could just be, it is a baffling decision. It is what it is. Maybe that's what the director wanted for whatever reason. Maybe people are like, no, people need to hear your voice, Chris Pratt, so they come to this movie. They want to be like, oh, hey, look, it's Star-Lord, and he's that video game guy. That could be the reason. I don't know. But I'm very interested to see the movie. I didn't think I would be thinking about and talking about a trailer so much. A part of it may just be like, hey, we might actually get a good video game movie. I know that's the meme about, it's an average movie. Oh, so you're saying it's the greatest video game movie made of all time? But this potentially looks like, it could be very good. And the nice thing, as opposed to a lot of other video games that have been adapted into movies, is that you can kind of make whatever story you want, because Mario is about platforming and having fun. And then there's a little outline of a story to kind of weave it all together. And why are we doing all these platformings? Why are we collecting coins and stars and mushrooms? How does this all work? So they have a great big playground to play with. And I hope they knock it out of the park. I'm definitely interested and intrigued. My feeling is right now I want to go to the movie theater and watch it. And unless something drastic happens, I'm gonna hold that thought. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my way too detailed analysis of it. But I appreciate you spending the time. If you have any thoughts, if you have any feelings, if you feel differently, please feel free to share those comments. I would be more than happy to have that conversation. Like I said, this isn't some hill for me to die on one way or the other. I just have some feelings and observations, and that's pretty much it. And I'm not attacking anyone who feels otherwise, unless you're just being absolutely unreasonable. Then I'm attacking that unreasonableness and not necessarily what's making you feel unreasonable. But with that disclaimer out of the way, that's all I got. I think I still probably forgot something, but I don't know what else there is. I hope you all been having a great day, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. And remember, what we create matters.